Do you ever think about those Christmas cartoons from the 1980s, the ones so wonderfully weird that you still laugh just remembering them? These cartoons filled Saturday mornings with holiday chaos that felt perfectly normal at the time. So what made them so unforgettable? And why do they still make us smile? The Cabbage Patch Kids' First Christmas was the kind of animated special that took itself so seriously it somehow became accidentally hilarious. These soft, sculpted dolls with their yarn hair and adoption papers were transformed into animated characters wandering through a holiday adventure filled with earnest lessons and dramatic moments wildly out of proportion. Kids watched with wide eyes while parents stifled confused laughter at dialogue that sounded like courtroom drama rather than holiday fare. The Cabbage Patch Kids talked about belonging in family while sporting oversized heads and stitched-on expressions. Every scene dripped with sincerity so thick you could spread it on toast. The animation wobbled between tender and unintentionally awkward, especially during emotional moments where the dolls hugged with arms that did not bend correctly. And yet, that was the charm. The special tried so hard to deliver a meaningful Christmas message that it looped right back into comedy gold. Parents today still quote lines in mock-serious voices, and somewhere a dusty VHS waits to make a new generation laugh at its beautifully bizarre sincerity. He-Man and She-Ra. A Christmas special was a glorious collision of franchises that could only have happened in the 1980s. Two of the most powerful warriors in the universe suddenly encountered Christmas, a holiday they had never heard of, and their confusion played out like an extended comedy sketch no one intended to write. The special featured Earth children crash landing on Eternia, and watching He-Man try to understand why people decorate trees and exchange wrapped boxes was comedy nobody planned. She-Ra approached the holiday with equal bafflement, her warrior instincts clashing with spreading peace and goodwill. Meanwhile, Hordak and Skeletor both tried to ruin Christmas without understanding what it was, creating absurd holiday villain plots. The dialogue was delivered with such dramatic weight that every line about candy canes sounded like universal fate depended on it. Kids loved the action and crossover, but adults today howl at how seriously everyone took the whole thing. It remains one of the funniest accidental comedies of the decade, a masterpiece of sincerity meeting absurdity. A Chipmunk Christmas gave audiences exactly what the 1980s demanded, which was three chipmunks singing in pitch-shifted voices while stumbling through holiday mishaps that somehow worked out perfectly in the end. Alvin, in his signature red sweater, managed to cause more chaos in a single Christmas special than most cartoon characters caused in their entire series runs combined. He gave away a harmonica, got himself into serious trouble, learned a valuable lesson, and then probably forgot it immediately, because that was simply Alvin being Alvin. The special leaned hard into the squeaky voice gimmick, turning every emotional moment into something that sounded like a balloon slowly deflating with genuine heartfelt feelings. Parents sat through it because their kids demanded it, but secretly they laughed at how ridiculous the whole thing sounded when Alvin delivered heartfelt apologies in that chipmunk warble. Simon and Theodore balanced the chaos with just enough brotherly stability and patience. The animation was bright, the songs were catchy, and the special had that unmistakable 80s warmth. The Smurfs Christmas Special introduced audiences to the most persistently cheerful blue creatures imaginable facing off against Gargamel during the holidays, a matchup producing some of the most absurd comedic moments of the decade. Gargamel, whose existence revolved around catching tiny blue beings he could never reach, made his schemes even more ridiculous with Christmas involved. The Smurfs remained impossibly optimistic, singing through danger with that signature la 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 that either charmed you or drove you slowly insane. The special featured all classic Smurf personalities, each embodying a single trait so completely that jokes practically wrote themselves. Brainy Smurf lectured about traditions nobody asked about. Clumsy knocked over decorations, and Papa Smurf dispensed wisdom that sounded profound but was actually basic common sense delivered mystically. Kids loved the adventure, while adults found themselves laughing at how seriously the Smurfs took their own tiny problems. The whole special was 3 apples high of pure holiday absurdity, and somehow that made it absolutely perfect for 80 Saturday mornings. Pac-Man Christmas remains one of the strangest holiday specials ever created because nobody in the production ever questioned whether a yellow circle who eats dots should celebrate human holidays at all. The special took everything people loved about the arcade game and jammed it awkwardly into a Christmas story that made almost no sense, but was hilarious precisely because of it. Pac-Man and his family decorated their maze like home while ghosts wandered around causing trouble, which meant ruining holiday plans instead of chasing anyone through corridors. The animation gave Pac-Man arms, legs, and facial expressions that somehow made him even more absurd than his original circular form. He talked, laughed, worried about presents, and did it all while occasionally chomping on things that had no business being in a Christmas special. The 80s were full of cartoons based on video games, but Pac-Man Christmas stands alone as a monument to how far studios would stretch a concept. Kids watched without questioning anything, but adults today burst into laughter at yellow circles exchanging wrapped presents. The Get Along Gang holiday special was aggressively wholesome in a way that only the 1980s could produce without irony. These animal characters, each representing a different positive trait, gathered to solve holiday problems through teamwork, friendship, and an almost unsettling amount of group hugging. Montgomery Moose led with the kind of earnest leadership that made every decision sound like a motivational poster. The plots were simple, lessons obvious, and characters smiled so much their faces must have hurt by credits. Every conflict resolved with group discussions about feelings, followed by everyone agreeing that getting along was the best present. Kids absorbed these messages without complaint, but parents exchanged knowing glances as saccharine sweetness reached dangerous levels. The special featured songs about cooperation that lodged in brains and refused to leave for decades. Looking back, it feels like a time capsule of how desperately the 80s wanted children to be nice, delivered through adorable animals with matching color-coordinated outfits that somehow made friendship feel mandatory. Alf's Special Christmas took the already bizarre premise of a furry alien living with a suburban family and cranked the weirdness up to holiday levels nobody expected or could have possibly anticipated in advance. Alf, whose main personality traits included eating cats and making sarcastic comments about virtually everything, suddenly found himself navigating Christmas traditions with the confused enthusiasm of someone who genuinely did not understand why humans wrapped boxes just to tear them open again. The special mixed live action with animated sequences in that uniquely 80s way that made everything feel slightly off-kilter in the best possible sense. Alf tried to help decorate the house, which went poorly. He tried understanding caroling, which confused him even more. He made observations about customs that highlighted just how strange traditions actually are when viewed through alien eyes. The humor worked on two levels, with kids laughing at the silly alien while adults appreciated sharper commentary hiding beneath the fuzzy exterior. Watching Alf wrestle with tinsel and argue about gift wrapping created comedy that still holds up today. Jem and the Holograms holiday episode delivered exactly what fans expected, which was glamour, drama, synthesizer music, and enough pink to blind anyone standing too close to the television screen at home watching with their family during the holidays. The episode featured Jem and her band competing with the Misfits in what could only be described as a holiday fashion war accompanied by musical numbers and dramatic confrontations at every turn. The outfits were outrageous, the hair defied gravity, and every emotional moment was punctuated by songs that sounded like they were written specifically for aerobics classes in neon-lit gyms. The plot involved charity concerts, stolen donations, and encounters in settings decorated with enough Christmas lights to power a small city. Jem transformed through her holographic earrings with such dramatic flair that changing clothes became an event worthy of its own theme music. Kids loved the sparkle, while adults today marvel at how seriously everyone took holiday rock rivalries. The animation captured that distinctive 80s aesthetic where everything glowed, shimmered, and demanded attention. G.I. Joe Cobra Claws Are Coming to Town proved that even the most intense military action cartoon could not resist the gravitational pull of a Christmas special. The episode featured Cobra Commander, whose usual plans involved world domination, suddenly pivoting to ruining Christmas for reasons never fully explained. The Joes responded with the same tactical precision they used for every mission, treating rescue of holiday cheer as seriously as any international crisis. Watching soldiers who normally dealt with laser battles suddenly concern themselves with presents-created unintentional comedy the writers probably never anticipated. The dialogue remained dramatic, with characters delivering lines about saving Christmas with intensity usually reserved for nuclear threats. Duke gave inspiring speeches about holiday spirit. Cobra Commander ranted about destroying joy, and somewhere in the middle actual gunfights happened because this was still G.I. Joe. The tonal whiplash between holiday warmth and cartoon violence made the special memorably bizarre, a perfect example of 80s cartoons refusing to let anything stop seasonal cash-ins. Transformers. Santa's secret weapon combined giant transforming robots with Christmas in a way that should not have worked, but somehow became incredibly entertaining and surprisingly memorable to audiences of all ages. The episode featured Autobots and Decepticons pausing their eternal war to deal with holiday problems that felt absurdly small compared to their usual galactic stakes. Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots and voice of robotic wisdom, delivered lines about the true meaning of Christmas with such gravitas, you almost forgot he was a truck who turned into a robot. Megatron tried exploiting the holiday for evil purposes because Decepticons apparently could not take a single day off from scheming against humanity. The animation showed giant robots interacting with tiny human decorations, highlighting just how ridiculous the scale differences really were. Kids loved seeing favorite robots in holiday scenarios, while adults appreciated unintentional comedy of watching war machines discuss peace on Earth. The special captured everything wonderful about 80s cartoon ambition and wholehearted commitment. Fat Albert Christmas Special brought the Junkyard Gang into the holiday season with the same blend of humor and heart that made the show a Saturday morning staple throughout the 1980s. Fat Albert and his friends faced a Christmas challenge that required teamwork, creativity, and resourcefulness that comes from growing up in a neighborhood where nothing went to waste. The animation had that distinctive filmation style, where characters moved with a slightly stilted grace that added to the charm rather than detracting from it. Bill Cosby's narration guided viewers through lessons about generosity and community, delivered with warmth that felt genuine even when the plots veered into sentimental territory. The Junkyard Gang improvised holiday decorations from scraps and turned their clubhouse into a festive gathering spot, proving you did not need money to celebrate properly. Kids laughed at the jokes while absorbing messages about friendship that the show delivered without ever feeling preachy. The special captured that unique 80s optimism that believed every problem could be solved with teamwork and a catchy song sung slightly off-key. Garfield Christmas Special gave audiences exactly what they expected from the world's laziest cat, which was sarcasm, reluctance, and eventual heartwarming moments delivered with maximum grumpiness along the way. Garfield traveled to the farm with John and Odie for a holiday visit that he approached with his signature lack of enthusiasm, complaining about everything from the cold weather to the lack of proper lasagna. The animation captured Garfield's expressions perfectly, those half-lidded eyes and smug smirks that made every sarcastic comment land exactly as intended. What made the special genuinely funny was watching Garfield slowly, reluctantly, against every fiber of his being, start to enjoy the holiday despite himself. He bonded with John's grandmother, discovered old letters in the attic, and even showed moments of genuine affection that he immediately tried to deny. Kids loved seeing their favorite orange cat in a new setting, while adults appreciated the dry humor that elevated the special above typical holiday fare. The whole thing walked the line between cynical and sweet in a way that felt authentically Garfield. Inspector Gadget Saves Christmas delivered exactly the kind of chaotic holiday entertainment that fans of the bumbling detective had come to expect and love. Dr. Claw hatched another scheme, this time targeting Christmas itself, and Inspector Gadget stumbled into saving the day through a combination of luck, malfunctioning gadgets, and the actual competence of his niece Penny working behind the scenes. The animation featured all the classic gadget moments with arms extending at wrong angles, helicopter blades deploying at inappropriate times, and the inspector remaining blissfully unaware that he was causing as much chaos as he was preventing. Penny and Brain did the real detective work while Gadget took all the credit, a formula that never got old because the execution was always so perfectly timed. The holiday setting gave the animators new opportunities for gadget malfunctions involving Christmas trees, presents, and decorations that inevitably ended up destroyed or scattered. Kids cheered for Gadget while adults laughed at the absurdity of a detective who succeeded entirely by accident. The special proved that some formulas work precisely because they never try to fix what was never broken. The Berenstain Bears' Christmas tree turned a simple family errand into an elaborate lesson about patience, humility, and the dangers of overthinking every single decision in life. Papa Bear, in his infinite confidence, led the family on a quest for the perfect Christmas tree that went predictably sideways from the very first scene. The animation had that warm, rounded quality that made Bear Country feel cozy, even when Papa was making increasingly questionable choices in the snowy forest. Mama Bear offered gentle suggestions that Papa ignored, Brother and Sister Bear exchanged knowing glances, and the whole family dynamic played out exactly as it did in every Berenstain Bears story ever told. The humor came from watching Papa's certainty crumble piece by piece until he finally admitted that maybe, just maybe, the first tree they saw would have been fine all along. Kids absorbed the lesson about not letting perfect become the enemy of good, while adults recognized their own holiday stress reflected back in Papa Bear's increasingly frazzled expressions. The special was comfort food animation, predictable and reassuring in all the right ways. Muppet Babies. The Best Christmas Ever unleashed the imaginative chaos of the nursery onto the holiday season, with results that were equal parts heartwarming and completely unhinged in the best way. The babies transformed their playroom into elaborate Christmas fantasies, with Kermit leading expeditions to the North Pole, while Miss Piggy demanded center stage in every imagined scenario. The animation blended the puppet-inspired character designs with live-action footage. In that distinctive style the show pioneered, creating transitions that felt magical even when they made no logical sense whatsoever. Gonzo's holiday wishes were predictably weird. Animal drummed on everything in sight, and Scooter tried to keep everyone organized while failing spectacularly at every attempt. The special captured that pure childhood excitement about Christmas, the kind where imagination runs so wild that reality becomes entirely optional. Parents watching recognized the chaotic energy of kids hopped up on holiday anticipation, while the kids themselves just enjoyed watching their favorite baby versions of beloved characters cause adorable mayhem in festive settings. Dennis the Menace Christmas Special set one hyperactive troublemaker loose on an entire neighborhood's holiday preparations, with predictably disastrous and hilarious results throughout. Dennis approached Christmas with the same boundless enthusiasm he brought to everything else, which meant good intentions executed so poorly that entire blocks of decorations ended up tangled, toppled, or otherwise destroyed. The animation captured his wild blonde hair and mischievous grin perfectly, making it impossible to stay mad at him even as he accidentally ruined everything he touched. Mr. Wilson bore the brunt of the chaos as always, his blood pressure visibly rising with each new catastrophe Dennis unleashed while trying to spread holiday cheer. The jokes landed because Dennis genuinely meant well, creating a comedy of errors where the audience rooted for him despite knowing exactly how badly everything would go wrong. Parents recognized the specific exhaustion of dealing with energetic children during the holidays, while kids saw a hero who proved that enthusiasm matters more than results. The special was pure slapstick wrapped in tinsel and delivered with maximum velocity and charm. The Jetsons' Christmas Carol took the classic Dickens tale and launched it into orbit with flying cars, robot servants, and a futuristic setting that somehow made the story feel fresh all over again. Mr. Spacely played Scrooge to perfection, his cheapness and cruelty updated for a space-age audience while remaining instantly recognizable to anyone who knew the original story at all. George Jetson suffered through his boss's holiday meanness with the same resigned acceptance he brought to every workday indignity the show threw at him. The ghosts arrived in appropriately futuristic style, whisking spacely through time in ways that allowed the animators to showcase both retro future designs and genuine emotional moments between the comedy. Rosie the robot provided commentary that was surprisingly insightful for a mechanical maid, and Astro barked at all the right moments to punctuate the jokes. The special worked because it trusted the source material while adding enough Jetsons flavor to justify its existence. Kids enjoyed the space-age silliness, adults appreciated the faithful adaptation, and everyone left with renewed appreciation for how well that old story translated across centuries and galaxies. Pound Puppies. Christmas Special deployed maximum cuteness in service of a holiday story about homeless dogs finding families just in time for Christmas morning to arrive. The puppies worked their underground railroad of canine rescue with the same determination they showed in every episode, but the holiday stakes made everything feel more urgent and more adorable simultaneously. The animation emphasized big eyes, floppy ears, and expressions designed to melt hearts and convince parents that maybe the family really did need a dog after all this year. The villain trying to shut down the pound got appropriately comeuppanced by the end, because this was the 80s and happy endings were mandatory in holiday specials about cartoon puppies finding homes. Kids fell in love with each dog's distinct personality, begging their parents for puppies of their own before the credits even finished rolling across the screen. The special knew exactly what it was doing, weaponizing adorableness with precision targeting that would make any advertising executive proud. Parents never stood a chance against that level of calculated sweetness, and honestly, most of them did not seem to mind surrendering to it at all. Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet. Frankenstein's Monster was not strictly a Christmas special, but aired during the holiday season often enough that it became permanently associated with December for an entire generation of viewers. The Chipmunks encountered classic horror in their signature squeaky style, turning what could have been scary into something genuinely hilarious through sheer force of high-pitched enthusiasm. Alvin approached the monster with his usual overconfidence, Simon tried to apply logic to an inherently illogical situation, and Theodore was scared of absolutely everything until friendship saved the day, as it always did. The animation mixed horror movie homages with the bright, colorful world of the Chipmunks in ways that created comedy through sheer contrast alone. Parents appreciated the classic monster movie references, while kids enjoyed watching their favorite singing rodents interact with creatures from completely different genres. The special proved that the Chipmunks could be dropped into virtually any scenario and emerge victorious through teamwork, songs, and the kind of family-friendly chaos that defined 80s animation at its most entertaining and unpredictable best. Pee-wee's Playhouse Christmas Special was perhaps the most chaotic, celebrity-packed holiday extravaganza ever produced for television audiences of any age. The Playhouse exploded with guest stars, musical numbers, and the kind of manic energy that made the regular show feel calm by comparison. Pee-wee bounced between segments with his signature laugh and bow tie, introducing acts that ranged from genuinely touching to completely bewildering without any apparent transition. The puppets joined in the celebration with their usual enthusiasm, Cherry offered support, and Conky printed out holiday messages that were appropriately nonsensical. Celebrity guests appeared and disappeared with dreamlike logic, singing songs and delivering jokes that only made sense in the specific reality of the playhouse itself. Kids were hypnotized by the colors and movement, while adults tried to process what exactly they were watching and why they could not look away. The special captured everything wonderful and weird about 80s children's entertainment, compressed into a holiday package that defied explanation but demanded repeated viewing every December. Snork's Christmas Special took viewers underwater for a holiday celebration that raised more questions than it answered while still delivering charming entertainment for young audiences. The Snorks, those adorable creatures with snorkels on their heads, decorated their ocean floor homes with seaweed garlands and bioluminescent lights that somehow captured the spirit of Christmas despite being nowhere near any actual snow. The animation created a dreamlike underwater world where the holiday rules bent to accommodate creatures who had never seen a chimney or a reindeer in their entire aquatic lives. The villain plotted to ruin the festivities in typically cartoonish fashion, giving the Snorks something to overcome through teamwork and holiday spirit. Kids accepted the underwater Christmas without questioning the logistics, while parents wondered how exactly gift wrapping worked in a world without dry paper. The special had that gentle pacing common to 80s cartoons, letting scenes breathe and jokes land without rushing toward the next plot point. Bubble-filled confusion pretty much summarized the whole experience, but somehow that made it more endearing rather than less. Heathcliff Christmas Special unleashed the orange streetwise cat onto holiday festivities with the kind of confident swagger that made him a favorite among kids who appreciated a cartoon character with genuine attitude. Heathcliff approached Christmas the same way he approached everything else, which was with schemes, confidence, and an unshakable belief that he was the smartest cat in any room, regardless of evidence to the contrary. The animation captured his cocky walk and knowing expressions perfectly, making every scene feel like Heathcliff was in on a joke that everyone else was still figuring out. The Cadillac Cats joined in the holiday chaos, adding their own brand of alley cat humor to a special that never tried to be anything more than fun entertainment. Kids loved watching Heathcliff outsmart dogs, dodge trouble, and somehow end up on top despite causing most of his own problems along the way. The holiday setting gave the animators excuses for fish-shaped ornaments, garbage can lids repurposed as sleds, and the kind of urban cat Christmas that felt authentic to the character. The special delivered exactly what fans expected with holiday wrapping. Rainbow Bright. Save the Star of Christmas sent the colorful heroine on a mission to rescue the holiday through the power of optimism, friendship, and an almost aggressive amount of pastel brightness. The special featured Rainbow Bright facing a threat to the Star of Christmas, whatever that meant in the specific mythology of her candy-colored world, and rallying her friends to save the day before darkness could ruin everything. The animation was saturated with colors that seemed to glow from within, creating a visual experience that felt like staring directly into a bag of decorative sprinkles for 22 minutes. The Color Kids each contributed their signature hues to the rescue effort, because in Rainbow Bright's world, color itself was a superpower that could defeat any villain. Kids loved the magical horse Starlight, the adorable sprites, and the message that believing in yourself could literally save Christmas from whatever vague threat was endangering it this time. The special captured that distinctive 80s girls' cartoon energy where everything sparkled, everyone was friends, and problems existed only to be solved through the power of caring really hard about things. My Little Pony. A very minty Christmas introduced viewers to a holiday adventure in Dream Valley that was sweet enough to cause cavities through the television screen itself. The ponies prepared for Christmas with the kind of enthusiasm that only pastel-colored magical horses could muster, decorating their homes and planning celebrations that revolved around friendship, sharing, and learning valuable lessons about what really matters. Minty, the clumsy but lovable pony, found herself at the center of a holiday crisis that she had accidentally caused and needed to fix before Christmas morning arrived. The animation featured soft colors, gentle movements, and character designs that seemed specifically engineered to sell toys while teaching children about kindness. Kids adored watching the ponies interact, each one with a distinct personality that made them feel like friends rather than characters. Parents endured the sweetness with varying degrees of patience, recognizing that their children were absorbing positive messages even if the delivery system was aggressively adorable. The special was pure sugar, and for its target audience, that was exactly what made it perfect holiday viewing. Care Bears Christmas Special deployed the full force of belly badge-powered caring onto the holiday season, with results that were simultaneously heartwarming and almost overwhelmingly cute. The Care Bears descended from Care-a-Lot to help children understand the true meaning of Christmas, which in their world meant caring about others so much that literal beams of light shot from your stomach. The animation featured those distinctive bear designs, each one color-coded and emotionally specialized, working together to defeat whatever force threatened to ruin the holidays. Kids learned that caring could solve virtually any problem, a message delivered with such earnest sincerity that it was impossible to argue with even when the logic fell apart. The villains were appropriately cartoonish, defeated not through violence but through concentrated doses of love that worked like emotional weapons. Parents watched their children absorb lessons about kindness while wondering if the bears ever got tired of caring so much. The special remains a perfect time capsule of 80s animation philosophy, where feeling good was the ultimate superpower and nothing bad could survive genuine holiday warmth. The Christmas blizzard of Bongo the Bear was a regional treasure, the kind of holiday special only a handful of families ever got to see. Bongo lived in a snowy forest that looked like it had been painted on frosted glass, and his gentle personality carried the story as he tried to protect his woodland friends from a blizzard that arrived just before Christmas Eve. Kids loved the friendly animals, simple jokes, and the warm tone that felt like someone reading aloud from a beloved picture book. But because the cartoon aired on a small regional station, it never reached nationwide syndication. Tapes were reused or misplaced, and local copies did not survive. Today, only those within that broadcast area remember Bongo's brave, cozy adventure. When ALF first landed on television screens in 1986, nobody quite knew what to make of it. Here was a sarcastic, wisecracking alien from the planet Melmac who crash-landed into the Tanner family's garage, and then their lives. The premise alone was ridiculous, but that was the point. ALF, short for Alien Life Form, wasn't just another puppet or special effect. He was a full-blown sitcom character with a personality so strong it made the show feel both absurd and oddly relatable. He ate cats, argued with the family, and dropped punchlines sharper than most human comedians. Beneath all the weirdness, ALF was a story about connection, a lonely alien trying to fit in with a family that didn't quite know what to do with him. The combination of science fiction and domestic comedy was totally unique, and it worked better than anyone expected. ALF's sarcasm and the Tanner family's exasperation became a weekly comfort to viewers everywhere. Kids loved the puppet, adults loved the wit. Even today, that shaggy alien in sunglasses remains one of the strangest, most charming creations the 1980s ever gave us. The Gumby Christmas Claytime special felt like someone crafted the entire holiday out of green clay, warm lighting, and pure imagination. Gumby and Pokey wandered through a snowy clay landscape where every footprint looked freshly pressed, every tree shimmered with hand-sculpted care, and every character had that gentle wobble unique to claymation of the era. The story was simple and heartfelt, often involving someone needing help, something going missing, or a small Christmas miracle tucked into a pocket of the clay world. Kids watched in awe as each scene seemed to breathe in slow, careful motions. But claymation was fragile. The materials aged quickly, and the original master suffered damage that made restoration nearly impossible. With no reruns and no reissued copies, the special faded from public memory. People who saw it still recall the soft glow of its world, the way Gumby stretched when he hugged someone, and the peaceful snow that looked like it might melt if you touched the screen. A Christmas Carol from 1984 starred George C. Scott as Ebenezer Scrooge, and his performance was so intense that children watching from behind the couch wondered if this was supposed to be a horror movie instead of a holiday classic. Scott growled, snarled, and glared his way through Victorian London with the kind of ferocity usually reserved for war films and courtroom dramas where someone was about to get destroyed on the witness stand. Every line felt like a threat, every scene crackled with barely contained fury, and the ghosts visiting him seemed genuinely nervous about their assignment. Parents who remembered gentler versions of the story sat in mild shock as Scott transformed Scrooge into something closer to a wounded predator than a redeemable miser. Kids hid behind pillows during the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come scenes, and some refused to watch it again for years. The production values were excellent, the supporting cast was solid, and the faithfulness to Dickens was admirable. But none of that mattered as much as Scott's volcanic presence dominating every frame. It became a holiday staple precisely because it was unforgettable. Alf's Special Christmas took the fuzzy alien from sitcom wisecracker to unexpected emotional territory, proving that the 1980s had no problem mixing belly laughs with genuine tears during the holiday season. The plot found Alf wandering into a hospital on Christmas Eve, where he befriended a terminally ill girl whose situation made even cynical viewers reach for tissues. The show always balanced humor with heart, but this special pushed deeper into sentiment than most sitcom holiday episodes dared to venture. ALF cracked jokes about hospital food, confused nurses with alien antics, and still somehow delivered moments that felt surprisingly sincere and touching. Kids expecting puppet comedy got something far more complex. A story about mortality wrapped in holiday tinsel. Parents appreciated the ambition even when tonal shifts felt jarring. One moment, ALF hid in a laundry cart. The next, he comforted a dying child with words about hope and connection. The special became a holiday staple not because it was perfect, but because it tried something different. That kind of risk defined the best of 80s television. Holiday hijinks with Huckleberry Hound brought the beloved blue dog into a chilly wonderland where everything that could go wrong during Christmas usually did. Huckleberry tried decorating trees that fell over, sang carols slightly off-key, and attempted to help Santa in ways that created more trouble than assistance. One gag involved Huckleberry wrapping himself completely inside a string of lights, blinking in perfect rhythm with the background music. Another saw him trying to shovel snow, only for the animation to loop so oddly that he never seemed to make progress. Yet kids roared with laughter because the mistakes felt intentional, like part of Huckleberry's holiday charm. The humor was light, the pacing slow and cozy, and the animation filled with that unmistakable Hanna-Barbera bounce. Kids adored the gentle silliness, and adults appreciated the familiar voice and easygoing charm. But as years passed, certain jokes and cultural references were deemed too outdated for reruns. Rights complications added another barrier, and the holiday short slipped quietly into retirement. Today, it lives mostly in the warm nostalgia of viewers who can still hear Huckleberry's drawl drifting through snowy holiday scenes. Dear John, 1988 to 1992. A recently divorced man joining a singles support group gave viewers bittersweet, relatable laughs. Dear John took a premise that could have been sad, a man rebuilding his life after divorce, and turned it into a warm, gently funny portrait of human resilience. Judd Hirsch starred as John Lacey, an ordinary guy whose wife leaves him unexpectedly, forcing him to start over in both life and love. Lost and lonely, he stumbles into a singles support group filled with an unforgettable cast of quirky characters, each with their own heartbreaks and eccentricities. What made Dear John special was its mix of humor and honesty. It didn't shy away from the pain of starting over, but it always found a laugh in the awkwardness of second chances. The writing was clever, balancing wry observations about modern relationships with moments of genuine empathy. Hirsch's understated charm anchored the series, making John both sympathetic and funny, a man learning that life doesn't stop when marriage does. The ensemble cast brought warmth and wit to every meeting, their friendships becoming the emotional center of the show. Dear John felt different from other sitcoms of its time. It was slower, more reflective, and deeply human. It showed that even after loss, laughter could still find a way in. For anyone navigating change, it was a quiet reminder that sometimes life's second act can be even richer than the first. Josie and the Pussycats. Holiday Road Trip sent the band on a snowy cross-country musical adventure filled with bright costumes, catchy jingles, and plenty of cartoon hijinks. The group traveled from town to town, playing cheerful holiday concerts and solving small mysteries along the way. There was a scene where the band performed on a moving sleigh that somehow stayed perfectly in tune despite the wind blasting past their faces. The animators took full advantage of the era's love for bold color palettes, turning every moment into a postcard of 70s style. Even the snow looked groovy, sparkling in shades no real winter has ever produced. Melody cracked jokes, Valerie saved the day with clever ideas, and Josie kept everyone moving forward despite holiday chaos following them like confetti in the wind. The animation style leaned into bold colors and expressive poses that made even simple scenes feel dramatic. Kids loved the blend of music and adventure, while adults enjoyed the upbeat retro soundtrack. But when the show's overseas distribution deals expired, reruns quietly disappeared. The holiday episode slipped into that strange void where content exists only in the memories of those who watched it at the perfect moment, fans still hum its long-lost songs even though no recordings remain. The Jeffersons, 1975 to 1985. Though it began in the 70s, its 80s run cemented its legacy of sharp humor and social satire. By the 1980s, The Jeffersons had already become television royalty, but its later years truly solidified its place as one of America's most iconic sitcoms. George and Louise Jefferson, played by Sherman Hemsley and Isabel Sanford, had moved on up, but they still carried the same mix of sass, humor, and heart that made audiences love them. The show's genius lay in its balance. It was laugh-out-loud funny while tackling real issues like race, class, and ambition with a fearless, satirical edge. George's loudmouth bravado clashed hilariously with Louise's grounded wisdom, creating the perfect comedic rhythm. Their bickering was classic, but beneath it all was deep affection and mutual respect. Supporting characters like Florence, the sharp-tongued maid, and Tom and Helen Willis, the interracial couple next door, gave the show endless comedic fuel while pushing boundaries for representation on TV. Even as the decade changed, the Jeffersons stayed relevant, reflecting how success didn't erase the challenges of identity and pride. The show made you laugh, but it also made you think. A rare combination that kept viewers coming back week after week. When it finally ended in 1985 after more than 250 episodes, it left behind not just a legacy of humor, but a blueprint for every socially conscious sitcom that came after. It was bold, funny, and unashamedly real. Everything a great 1980s show should be. The Misfit Robot Save Christmas was one of those specials that felt like it came straight out of a toy aisle where imagination mattered more than logic. The robots clanked around with stiff movements, blinking lights, and cheerful beeps that probably came from whatever sound effects machine the studio could find. Their mission was simple: help Santa when his workshop gears jammed, his sleigh lights flickered, or his conveyor belts froze from winter mischief. Kids loved the idea of toys saving Christmas, especially toys with mismatched parts and big hearts. But the entire special was sponsored by a toy company that eventually went out of business, taking all the broadcast rights with it. When the company folded, no one stepped in to preserve the cartoon, and it quietly disappeared. Today, people who remember it swear the robots had personalities as bright as their blinking chests, even if the animation wobbled. Scrooged from 1988 took the classic Dickens tale and filtered it through Bill Murray's particular brand of sardonic detachment, creating a holiday film that confused as many people as it entertained during its theatrical run. Murray played a heartless television executive getting visited by ghosts on Christmas Eve, and his reactions ranged from genuine terror to bemused indifference depending on the scene and possibly his mood that day on set. The supporting cast included Carol Kane as a violent fairy who beat Murray senseless while giggling, and that energy pretty much defined the entire movie's approach to holiday cheer. Critics did not know what to make of it. Audiences laughed in some scenes and sat in baffled silence during others, and the ending featured Murray delivering a rambling monologue directly to the camera that either moved you to tears or made you wonder if the script had simply run out of pages. Cable television embraced it anyway, airing it constantly every December until it became impossible to avoid. The movie aged into cult status, beloved by those who appreciated its dark edges. The facts of life. Christmas episodes brought the Eastland Academy girls together for holiday adventures filled with drama, secret Santas, and life lessons wrapped in sisterhood. The show excelled at balancing comedic moments with genuine emotional depth. Blair, Joe, Natalie, and Tootie faced everything from financial worries about gift-giving to deeper questions about what the holidays meant for young women away from their families. Mrs. Garrett provided wisdom, warmth, and maternal guidance that anchored every storyline. Holiday episodes involved the girls planning events, resolving conflicts, or helping community members in need. The humor came from personality clashes and comedic timing the cast had perfected over seasons of working together. Beneath the laughs, these episodes touched on loneliness, family expectations, and complicated feelings surrounding holidays for teenagers growing up. The show treated its young audience with respect, never dumbing down emotional content while still keeping things entertaining. Those Christmas episodes became comfort viewing for generations who found themselves needing reminders about friendship and generosity during the holiday season. The Littlest Elf's Snowy Journey was one of the softest, sweetest Christmas specials ever aired. The animation had that watercolor look that made every snowy hill seem hand-brushed, every little detail glowing with winter softness. The story followed a tiny elf determined to deliver one lost present before sunrise, wandering through forests, icy ponds, and shimmering nighttime landscapes. The narration was gentle, the music warm, and the pacing slow enough to feel like a bedtime story told by firelight. But it aired only once or twice in select regions, never released on tape, and the master copy was never preserved. As a result, no broadcast-quality version survives. Fans can describe scenes vividly, but no one can prove it existed except through childhood memories. The Duck Factory, 1984. A young Jim Carrey starred in this forgotten gem about animators struggling to make cartoons, weird, witty, and pure 80s. Before he became a movie star, Jim Carrey got his first taste of television fame in The Duck Factory, a short-lived but wonderfully offbeat sitcom. Set inside a struggling animation studio, the show followed Skip Tarkenton, an idealistic young animator who joined a team of overworked, eccentric cartoonists trying to keep their show alive. Carrey's trademark physical humor and goofball energy were already shining through, even in his earliest performances. The Duck Factory stood out because it blended the real world of television production with the wild imagination of cartoons. It was part satire, part workplace comedy, and completely unique. The characters were lovable misfits, burnt-out animators, snarky voice actors, and a boss constantly one crisis away from collapse. Each episode poked fun at the chaos behind the entertainment industry while celebrating creativity in all its messy glory. Critics praised its clever writing and originality, but it struggled to find an audience and ended after just 13 episodes. Still, it holds a special place in 1980s television history as a showcase of what was to come. Watching Carrey's performance today feels like seeing the spark that would later explode into superstardom. The Duck Factory might not have lasted, but it captured something rare: the awkward, joyful beginnings of a comedic genius and the pure, unpredictable spirit of 1980s creativity. The Christmas Trolls of Timber Hollow was a woodland fantasy special that looked like it had been animated with crayons, moss, and the softest winter sunlight. The trolls were more whimsical than frightening, with big noses, fluffy hair, and oversized mittens that made everything they touched seem gentler. There was a sequence involving glowing berry lanterns that felt so enchanting people still describe it decades later. The trolls danced in circles around a fire that did not burn but shimmered like painted light, a touch only 70s animators could pull off. Even their shadows seemed to move with personality, stretching and curling like characters of their own. The story followed their efforts to protect Timber Hollow from an unexpected winter disaster while preparing for their once-a-year holiday feast. Kids loved watching the trolls tumble through snow, gather glowing berries, and sing harmonies that sounded like lullabies mixed with wind chimes. But as animation standards changed, the troll designs were labeled outdated, and concerns grew about how certain features might be interpreted by modern audiences. The special was quietly shelved, never remastered, and rarely mentioned again. Still, those who saw it remember the cozy glow of its forest and the trolls' joyful determination to save their holiday. Square Pegs, 1982 to 1983. Sarah Jessica Parker's early role in a short-lived but beloved teen sitcom about awkward high school outsiders. Square Pegs might have lasted only one season, but for anyone who saw it, it was unforgettable. The show followed two best friends, Patty, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Lauren, Amy Linker, as they struggled to fit in at Wee High School. They weren't popular, glamorous, or confident. They were the outsiders who never quite got it right, and that made them instantly relatable. In a decade obsessed with perfection, Square Pegs celebrated imperfection. Its humor came from small, painfully real moments, failed crushes, embarrassing mistakes, and the desperate hope of being noticed. The dialogue was fast, awkward, and full of teenage honesty, capturing the rhythm of real adolescent life in a way few shows dared to. Parker's natural charm and vulnerability made Patty stand out as a character who felt genuinely human, long before she became a style icon on Sex and the City. The show's blend of punk rock attitude, Valley Girl slang, and heartfelt storytelling made it a cult favorite. Critics loved it for being smart and ahead of its time, even if audiences were slow to catch on. Though it was canceled after just 20 episodes, Square Pegs remains a hidden gem of the 1980s, a funny, awkward, and authentic look at the teenage experience that still resonates with anyone who's ever felt like they didn't belong. The Great North Pole Talent Show was a musical spectacle that played out like a holiday variety hour hosted by elves who had never rehearsed anything in their lives. Reindeer performed tap routines, snowmen attempted comedy acts that melted halfway through, and penguins delivered songs with so much enthusiasm that the audio sometimes distorted. One unforgettable act involved a gingerbread quartet that crumbled apart mid-song, yet somehow finished their performance. Another featured an elf magician whose trick succeeded only because the animation occasionally skipped a frame at the right moment. Kids watched in awe, not because the acts were polished, but because anything could happen on that tiny, frosty stage. Kids loved the playful chaos, and adults chuckled at the goofy charm of it all. The background shimmered with glittery blues and whites, giving the whole special a frosty glow. But the show relied heavily on a soundtrack packed with original songs, and the music licensing fees ballooned over the decades. Networks refused to pay the renewal costs, and the special was withdrawn from circulation entirely. Today, people who remember it recall the laughter, the wobbly stage performances, and the feeling that anything could happen during that talent show in the snow. Gremlins from 1984 was technically a horror comedy, but its Christmas setting was so integral to the plot that millions of families accidentally made it part of their holiday viewing tradition and then spent years questioning that decision. The movie started sweetly enough, with a father bringing home an adorable creature called a mogwai as a Christmas gift for his son, complete with rules that absolutely nobody was going to follow for more than 10 minutes. Once the gremlins multiplied and started terrorizing the town, the holiday backdrop became darkly hilarious, with creatures caroling, decorating, and generally treating Christmas like their personal playground of chaos. One infamous scene had a character describing how her father died in a chimney dressed as Santa, and parents across America wondered who exactly approved that monologue for a family film. Kids loved the mayhem, adults appreciated the sharp humor hidden beneath the creature effects, and everyone agreed the movie had no business being as entertaining as it was. It became a December staple through sheer force of personality and a willingness to be genuinely weird. Different strokes. Holiday specials turned the Park Avenue penthouse into a stage for Christmas lessons delivered through sitcom misunderstandings and Arnold's perfectly timed catchphrases. The show mixed humor with social commentary, and holiday episodes balanced both sides with varying degrees of success. Arnold and Willis navigated Christmas with adoptive father Philip Drummond, learning lessons about generosity, family, and the true meaning of the season. Gary Coleman's delivery transformed predictable setups into memorable moments, his expressive face selling jokes that might have fallen flat with any other performer. Episodes featured gift mix-ups, unexpected visitors, and heartfelt reconciliations between laugh track cues. The show understood its audience, kids who wanted comedy and parents who appreciated messages about acceptance. Christmas specials pushed sentimentality higher, wrapping everything in tinsel and good intentions. Those holiday episodes captured an era of television that believed strongly in teaching through entertainment. Arnold asking what people were talking about during Christmas dinner became its own kind of tradition. The Christmas Trolls of Timber Hollow was a woodland fantasy special that looked like it had been animated with crayons, moss, and the softest winter sunlight. The trolls were more whimsical than frightening, with big noses, fluffy hair, and oversized mittens that made everything they touched seem gentler. There was a sequence involving glowing berry lanterns that felt so enchanting people still describe it decades later. The trolls danced in circles around a fire that did not burn but shimmered like painted light, a touch only 70s animators could pull off. Even their shadows seemed to move with personality, stretching and curling like characters of their own. The story followed their efforts to protect Timber Hollow from an unexpected winter disaster while preparing for their once-a-year holiday feast. Kids loved watching the trolls tumble through snow, gather glowing berries, and sing harmonies that sounded like lullabies mixed with wind chimes. But as animation standards changed, the troll designs were labeled outdated, and concerns grew about how certain features might be interpreted by modern audiences. The special was quietly shelved, never remastered, and rarely mentioned again. Still, those who saw it remember the cozy glow of its forest and the trolls' joyful determination to save their holiday. There was a brief moment in the 1970s when someone decided the live-action holiday film, The Christmas That Almost Was Not Deserved, an animated remake, and so it was born. The animated edition had a quirky, bouncy energy, as if everyone involved was trying to squeeze every last drop of whimsy out of the original story. The characters were redesigned with rounder faces, bigger eyes, and more dramatic gestures that occasionally drifted into unintentional comedy. The villain looked slightly less menacing and slightly more confused, and Santa Claus had a habit of nodding his head in a looping animation that made him appear unusually agreeable. The songs, reimagined for animation, were catchy in that delightful but slightly off-key way only 70s soundtracks could achieve. Although the special aired a few times during holiday marathons, it never found the same loyal audience as its live-action predecessor over time. The master tapes were shuffled from one storage space to another, caught in a cycle of network changes and distribution reshuffling. Eventually, the animated remake slipped out of circulation entirely. People who watched it as children describe it with the kind of fond uncertainty usually reserved for dreams, vivid in feeling, fuzzy in detail, and oddly comforting. Yet, finding proof of its existence is almost impossible now. It is one of those specials that lived briefly, brightly, and then drifted quietly into television folklore. Few sitcoms captured pure joy quite like Perfect Strangers. When Larry Appleton, a serious young man chasing the American dream, suddenly found himself sharing an apartment with his exuberant, naive cousin Balky from the fictional Mediterranean island of Mypos, the culture clash was comedy gold. Balky's broken English, unfiltered optimism, and constant misunderstandings clashed hilariously with Larry's control freak tendencies. Together, they made a pair that could turn even the simplest situation, like grocery shopping or dancing, into a masterpiece of physical comedy. What made the show work was its heart. Beneath the endless laughs and catchphrases like, "Don't be ridiculous," was a friendship that showed how differences could make people stronger. It was silly but sincere, reminding audiences that kindness and patience could overcome anything, even a goat-herding cousin who thought everything in America was magical. The show's upbeat tone made it perfect for the 1980s, when optimism and big dreams were part of pop culture's DNA. By the end of its run, Perfect Strangers had cemented itself as a symbol of laughter, friendship, and the weird but wonderful chaos of trying to belong. Long before the polished, jingling world of Rankin Bass completely took over holiday animation, there was a curious little off-brand Frosty special that flickered onto screens for a very short window of time. Frosty's Magical Christmas Adventure had the kind of charm that comes from trying your absolute best with whatever budget you have. And trust me, this one did not have much to brag about. Frosty himself looked slightly different from scene to scene, sometimes a bit rounder, sometimes a bit taller, and occasionally with a face that seemed surprised by its own existence. But that unpredictability was part of the fun. Kids did not care if the snowflakes looked more like falling cotton balls or if Frosty's hat tilted at an angle that defied physics. They cared that he talked, he laughed, and he led the children through a holiday adventure filled with snowy hills, twinkling lights, and the kind of magic only the 1970s could get away with. The music leaned heavily on bells, flutes, and whatever instruments the studio had lying around. The backgrounds looked like watercolor paintings that had been left out during a snowstorm. But it worked. It felt cozy, homemade, and sincere. Sadly, when the official Frosty franchise tightened its hold on the character, this little offbeat special disappeared instantly, swallowed up by licensing rights that left no room for unofficial magic. To this day, people swear they remember it, even if nobody can find a surviving tape. If these forgotten cartoon specials brought back a smile, share which one you remember most in the comments, tap like to spread the 80s holiday joy, and subscribe so you never miss another nostalgic trip down memory lane.